Hello, parents, educators, and nerdy D&D fans. You have found our new home for Area of Effect, a talk show where we discuss how tabletop role-playing games benefit the whole family. We're currently in process of shifting all our old but golden episodes over to this new channel by posting a new episode every weekday until we catch back up to our new episodes. We would love your help getting this new channel up and running with a follow, share, or review. And thanks for joining us on our quest to bring more adventurers to the table.
Running a small business means I wear lots of hats. When I put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn Hiring Pro to make it easy. LinkedIn Hiring Pro helps manage my hiring workflow, puts my job post in front of a unique network of professionals, and matches me with the best candidates for my business. I can also share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. No wonder most small businesses say they'd use LinkedIn Hiring Pro again. Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. Earn 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, apply to find out your welcome offer, which could be as high as 300,000 membership rewards points. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Welcome offers vary, and you may not be eligible for an offer. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
Kids Table Podcast.
There's no such thing as a perfect D&D session for a DM. Or at least there's no such thing as a D&D session that goes perfectly. Inevitably, your players will do something you don't expect or haven't planned for, and you'll suddenly have to figure out what to do next. Suddenly, you're DMing on the fly. Just like I was during this moment on a recent episode of our actual play series, The Kids Table. So you're having a bit of a time climbing up. And one of the blue cards comes over from the door and starts yelling, Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing up there?
Yell back that I'm trying to see a vantage point because I lost him up there.
Okay, roll a deception check. Yeah, you're good at deception.
Ooh, 23 total.
Okay, his whole demeanor changes. He says, Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, sir. What did you lose?
A diamond ring.
That must have been so precious to you. Let me help you search. Which direction would you like me to go?
Up.
All right. And he will start to climb the wall after you.
Is this really a good idea?
I tried to give Argon the out when he failed a stealth check, but succeeded on his deception check. I tried to have the guard go a different way. But player Dylan did something I didn't expect. And guess what? It ended up making the story even better. So how do you successfully DM on the fly? Today on Area of Effect, Allison and I talk through what it takes to be a DM on the fly so that you don't crash land, but instead help your players soar.
Welcome to Area of Effect, a podcast by the Kids Table, where we discuss how tabletop RPGs benefit kids and answer your questions about playing TTRPGs with the kids at your own table. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Allison. How are you?
Let me tell you, it is getting to the scorching levels in Florida where I just hide inside.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. 8 a.m., I can't do it.
Hey, here in California, it is like 85 degrees outside right now. It is lovely.
Oh my goodness.
It's
Let me
so
hop
great.
on a plane right now.
Come on out, man.
So we're almost in the dog days of summer. Yeah, my children are at each other's throats every day. I'm hiding from my children more because I'm tired of putting down the fights 1,000 times.
Yeah, I feel that. Shout out to listener Nick, who commented to me this week that he appreciated the solidarity from the podcast episode last time, where we talked about just barely being above water. Nick, right there with you, man. And
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of fights you're fielding, but here on the home front, I can't wait for school to come back. I'll just say that.
Yay, school is great.
School is amazing. So, Allison, what kind of improv skills do you have?
Oh man, I love going to improv shows.
Wait,
Improv
do you
theater.
really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's
Especially,
so hard for me.
really?
Yes.
I love it. Especially improv musicals where the pianists that play the music for improv musicals blow my mind
Oh,
because they're
for
making it up on the
sure.
fly, and they
Yes.
are incredible. Shout out to Tony.
Oh, I know. I always get so worried watching improv shows. Like it's just the anxiety in me, like just skyrocket.
You feel the anxiety as if you were on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But DMing on the fly doesn't scare you.
No, see, that's the weird thing. So friends, last Saturday, so this is going to be 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to play D&D at our local library, and I ended up DMing for a table of 14 kids. And friends, let me tell you, it was the best time. I had the best time. But you want to talk about DMing on the fly, like DMing with 14 kids at the table is only on the fly. Like there is no plan. You cannot make a plan that will survive 14 kids at one table. Uh,
Especially tweens and teens.
oh my gosh. But it was so great. Yeah, no, DMing on the fly is feels different to me than that.
I would say that you are an outlier in that sense because most parents that I talk to who are terrified of trying to be DMs for their kids, it's because they're terrified of when their kids go off script.
Okay, so this is why I'm asking you this though, Allison, like what kind of improv skills that you have. So for instance, this summer, how often has your plan for the day for your kids gone to plan?
The first day of summer was the only day that my plan
Hey, you had one
saved.
day. I'm impressed actually.
I did. It was glorious.
But you roll with it, right? You
Yeah.
figure out like, okay, so this place is closed or it's too hot or we're too grumpy and you're able to make another plan and you're able to roll with it and the end like you have more good days than bad days, right?
Yes.
Okay. Say it with conviction.
Well, I'm not sure, Ryan. Weren't we just talking about how hard it is to parent in the summer?
Okay, what would your girls say that they
Oh,
had
they're
more
having a
good days?
blast.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would say then that means that you have the skills to DM on the fly.
Yeah, I feel like I can DM on the fly. I like to have a plan. It's like when I give a public speaking presentation,
Sure.
right? Like I like to have, clearly I'm great at public speaking. I like to have an outline so
Yeah.
that when I don't know what to say,
Yep.
it prompts me what to say. But I
Yes.
don't like to just read the script
Yes.
ever.
For
Yeah.
sure. But I think that that's what I'm saying too. If you can make it through a summer with children, you can DM on the fly. Because it's all about starting with a plan and then the moment that plan goes sideways, figuring out where you go next. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see that in the clip that we played at the top of the episode. So this is episode 13 of the Kids Table, which is our actual play show on YouTube. And in this particular episode, the team are breaking into a library, which is awesome on its face. And they spent the entire last episode making a plan for breaking into the library, and they're executing that plan now. And so part of the plan is that our rogue has to go to the top of a wall unseen and set off a firework. And I make a perception check for the guards, and he makes a stealth check and just biffs the stealth check. And so the guards see him. So their plan has gone awry. So they have to figure out on the fly what they're going to do. Which is great because anytime you make a kid figure out what to do on the fly, they can come up with a different plan, no problem. And then their plan puts your plan on the back foot. It's
Yep.
awesome every single time. So Aragon, the guard sees Aragon and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And Aragon lies to him, succeeds on his stealth or on his deception check. And I, as the DM, am like, okay, great. So I'm going to say, as the NPC, what do you want me to do, friend? How can I help you? And this is a great time for the player to say, go away and continue with this plan. But is that what
Because
Argon
you had
does?
a script in your mind that he
Bingo.
didn't have.
Bingo! That
Yeah.
is the problem. You, as a DM, have a script in your head that you're working from that nobody else is working from. So, lesson one, let go of the script. Uh, because I promise you, you and the kids together at the table will make a better script. It will be so much more fun. So you got to let go of your expectations a little bit. And I had to let go of my expectation that this would be an easy, I'm just going to scale the wall and set off the firework. No, no, this became an extended interaction where he wanted the guard to come up with him on top of the wall. Um, So DMing on the fly is a little bit of improv. It's a little bit of that yes or modality that we've talked about. It's a little bit of having a plan in your back pocket, but mostly it's following the kids because the kids will lead you where you need to go. Your players will lead you where you need to go. My plan as the DM falls apart within the first 5 minutes because it always does. That's just the way it goes. And that's great because when your plan falls apart, it makes space for the kids to do awesome things. So we got to have this really fun little sleight of hand, stealth check, weird conversation up on this wall that I didn't plan. But now there's an NPC in Trivestia who just loves love and just loves to help people who lose things like engagement rings. And like, he's the sweetest little guard for the Blue District in Trivestia. And I hope somebody writes a fanfic about him one day because he's adorable.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, right. But that's the thing about DMing on the fly is that when you're able to let go just a little bit of your plan and give the kids space to do what they want, you can figure out step 2 and step 3 and step 4 and step 4A and step 4D because the kids are providing you multiple paths that then you as the DM can figure out what you want to go down.
Yeah, and it creates these beautiful moments that you couldn't have made with the most hours of DMing prep
Yeah, correct.
possible, right?
Correct.
Like honestly, that little interaction on top of the wall with the guard was like my most favorite part of the game.
It was pretty funny. Was my second part most favorite part of the episode because my first favorite part of the episode is where Chloe, who plays Serena, decides
Ah,
in the moment that her disguised self is going to be this buff bodybuilder dude general. And that was also not part of my plan, and that was freaking hysterical. Go watch the episode if you haven't seen it yet.
I think one of the important things of letting your kids, your kid players, bring you off the path or the railroad, as the veteran DM players would call it, right? Um, one of the most beautiful things is one of the biggest advantages of kids playing D&D. It's giving them agency and control in a way that they don't have in real
Yes,
life.
correct.
So tell us about how that looks different for like a middle elementary school kid and then like a tween or a teen.
So for younger kids who are in elementary school and younger, they are used to rules and regulations and authority figures telling them what to do, and by and large, they're able to roll with that. Especially when they are able to incorporate it into their sense of fair play. Middle schoolers, not so much. Middle schoolers and high schoolers are more in that abstract thinking modality. And once their mind is open to the possibilities of the world, you cannot shut Pandora's box. And so they know that they can push against boundaries. They are, in fact, designed to push against boundaries because they need to figure out which boundaries are actually legitimate and which ones are keeping them safe. And so one of the wonderful things about the D&D table is that it works for both types of kid, right? You have structure for the kids who need structure, and you have a structure that allows for boundary pushing for the kids that need the boundary pushing.
And I think it also depends on the particular kid because I have two kids that respond to this very
Yeah,
differently.
for sure. I do too.
So my oldest, typical oldest child, she knows that I've written a story and she will not try to break that story. If
Yep.
I have left some little crumbs leading her character in a certain direction, she's 100% going to follow that and not try to
Yep.
introduce any amount of chaos.
Yep. Yep.
My 5-year-old, on the other hand, you couldn't drag her into the story that I have planned. She
Uh-huh.
has her own story. In fact, she should really just be the DM at this point because she doesn't need me there. She's just going to tell her own story.
And that's why you need both types of kids at the table, because
Yeah.
that is one of the saving graces for when you have to DM on the fly. When you have a kid who craves structure, they are able to help the kids who like to push boundaries come back to the story. And when you have a kid who likes to push boundaries, they're able to help the kids who crave structure figure out what to do when the plan falls apart. And that helps take you, the DM, out of the equation then, because your players are starting to form that little social grouping, social pressure that keeps them all together. Um, One of the things that you have to be careful with when you're DMing on the fly is the paths that you are providing them as things are falling apart and fluid, because they will latch on to the things that you say. So this is where planning ahead is actually really helpful. If you know the end game of this scene has to be them getting into the library. So whatever else happens, they have to have different routes that can get them to the library. So when the guard sees Aragon, when Aragon unexpectedly invites the guard up to the top of the wall, I, as the DM, my mode is now not like, oh my gosh, well, what happens to the next thing that I had planned? My mode is still, they have to get into the library. So how do I help them get rid of this NPC?
Yeah.
Right? And I was able to provide Aragon a couple of ways to get rid of the NPC, right? He starts throwing out suggestions. I latch onto it to one of them and say, are you meaning to do this? Which is that yes or modality. And he says yes. So then I'm able to role play the NPC climbing down the wall looking for the gold coin that he's dropped that he's pretending is a ring. And then, and this is also a really important part of DMing on the fly, a later part of that, after that clip, Aragon. So the I've cleared the problem. The NPC is leaving. The guard is gonna get out of the way. He's gonna distract the other guards. So Aragon has this perfect chance where he's alone on top of the wall and he can set the firework off and he can do the thing. And I say that the NPC is crawling down. The guard is crawling down the side of the wall. And what do you want to do now? And I'm expecting Aragon to say, I'm going to light the firework. And instead, what Aragon says is, I kick him in the face. And it's a very funny moment.
Self-sabotage moment.
And absolute self-sabotage. So when you're DMing on the fly, don't forget that one of your responsibilities, you have a duty of care to the kids around the table. You can't let them just make mistakes that are actually going to harm them in the game. So I'm looking at Dylan like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure? And luckily, the other adult at the table, Raynell, one of my other players, picks up on that and says, Psst, Dylan, the DM is giving you a hint that you should light the firework now. Which is, again, why it's always helpful to have another adult at the table who's not the DM, because they can be the second voice helping keep things together.
I like to think of it as like the bumpers on a bowling alley. It's such a
Yes.
very wide bowling alley. Maybe it's more like a fence around a pasture. Like at a certain point, he's just getting carried away
Yes.
and so enthralled with his own power
Yes.
over this story and so engrossed in the role of the rogue, he can't help himself with that image of that guard climbing down the wall, so vulnerable, like, oh, I
Yes.
gotta kick him, not thinking about, oh, then probably me and my whole team is going to be in the jail and we're definitely not going to get in the
Right.
library.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
He's just lacking, he's just not thinking ahead that far. He's just reacting in the moment because he's improvising,
Right.
right? Which is
Right.
great.
Which is great.
The rails need to be there to bump him or the other players at the table to be like, hey, maybe not.
Right.
This might have consequences.
And that's one of the key things too, is knowing the players around the table. If I had had a different set of players around the table, I might have let him do that. I might have thought in my head, okay, fine, this is where they want to go with this. Let's see where this goes.
It's like the keyless jumping off the cliff, turning into a fish moment.
Exactly. Like sometimes you just got to let the players fail, and
Yeah.
sometimes you got to let the story go to unexpected places. And I am quite sure if I had actually let that scenario play out, I don't think the rest of the table would have gone along with it. So that again, your duty to care is to the kids, to the players, to the whole table. And if you want to accuse me of railroading, that is a perfectly valid accusation. There is an element of railroading that I am doing there as the DM. And you as a DM have to figure out how much railroading you want to do. If you do no railroading, if you play perfectly sandbox game, that is a valid way to DM. It makes it a lot harder for you, and it makes it a lot harder for your players. And maybe you want to play on expert mode and go for it, man. That is a perfectly valid way to tell a story. And there are some awesome moments in some of the online actual plays that do that come about because of that. And in your duty of care to the kids at the table, is that really what's best? That's the question I would ask.
Is it legitimate, Ryan? Because this is how I DM to railroad more for kids than for adults. Because I for sure do.
I mean, I think so, but I wouldn't necessarily frame it as kid versus adult. I would frame it for player styles. If I had four Dylans at the table, I think that I could do that. I wouldn't railroad as much, probably. If I had four of you at the table, I would probably railroad a little bit more
You're gonna
because,
railroad me
well,
and not
because
Dylan?
you are expecting a certain type of story, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will also say, with four of you at the table, I would need to do less railroading. So oftentimes where railroading and DMing comes in is because you have different player types at the table. And so you're having to negotiate with yourself, which personality am I going to go with in this moment? I would say you should always err on the side of the kids who are going to have the harder time with the decision. Sometimes it's okay to make a decision that kids find hard, and in fact, sometimes it's good to make a decision that kids find hard. But if you're DMing on the fly in that moment where you're improvising and trying to figure out where to go, sometimes defaulting to the either the path of least resistance or the lowest common denominator, I would say is usually the wiser place.
And for me, the reason why I'm personally okay with some amount of railroading, I don't like railroad 100% of the things that happen, is because I feel like I want them to experience certain things and certain moments and certain
Yeah.
decisions in the story. And if this whole thing is happening in this one town and it's going to lead to this beautiful moment and this experience that's going to bring them together, whatever. And then they like just leave the town and they're like, oh, we're just going to be fishermen,
Yep.
like, okay, but like, then you're missing this whole epic tale. So you're
Yep.
right. Like, I would want you to railroad me because I want to hear the story that you want to tell. And yes, a lot of DMs have a way to still bring about that story no matter what happens,
Yes.
right? Like if they go to a different town, okay, now your bad guy has expanded his criminal operation to the other town. Like stuff like that is easy to adapt and still keep the essence of the story. But if you're going to completely lose the trail of the story, I think it's okay to give them another reason
Yes.
to stay in that location or
Yes.
follow that thread.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I would land with that is you often don't have to do quite as much railroading as you might think because the story will do the railroading for you. If in your head you can have that loose outline of what the story is about and what the major points are, you can come back to that to help the players remember what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. There are more than a couple of times in this season of the Kids Table where you can see if you're watching, you can see places where I am doing a little bit of railroading, but it's the story doing it for me. I'm able to bring in these other story elements, these other NPCs, these other moments that keep the characters back on the path that they need to be on ultimately for, the final confrontation that's being set up.
And I think two of the major tools a DM can have at their disposal to keep the characters invested in the story is one, making the story compelling enough,
Yep.
giving them a reason why their character in particular cares about
Yes.
the whatever crisis is happening.
Yep.
And two, raising the stakes enough.
Yep.
Like if the stakes are if you beat up this guard, then you're just going to be in prison for the rest of the game and not
Yep.
get to play.
Yep.
That's sufficient motivation, right? To
Exactly.
to go along with it. So I think those two tactics are pretty easy. What other tools would you give a DM? For instance, I know a lot of DMs that play sandbox mode like to have a lot of random tables, like roll a
Oh, sure.
d20 to figure out what encounter they have on their journey. That's a really common one. But
Yep.
also like roll to see the name of this NPC if it's hard for you to come up with NPCs on the fly or
Yep.
whatever it is for you to have that's hard to come on the fly. A lot of people will use like a random table where you just roll a dice and look at that number on the table, and that's the thing that happens next. So you have that kind of in your tool belt. Do you ever use that, or are there other tools you use to rely on in those moments?
I definitely have a table of names because I DM'd for a campaign once of adults who were insistent that I name every NPC that they encountered and would go out of their way to encounter NPCs just so that I would have to name them. I wonder, Allison, can you
Who
imagine
is that?
who would have done that?
don't know.
No
It
idea.
definitely wasn't me.
You can't come up with a name there, can you? So, from experience, I keep a table of names. Um, I don't necessarily have tables like that, but I think that that's a really good idea if you're going to be in sandbox style gameplay. You've got to have some things at your fingertips that will help you improv on the fly. So NPCs is a really good idea. I would also say minor story hooks too. Because sandbox style play is usually for players who want to explore, and that means that they want to go outside the bounds of the narrow story that's being told. So they ultimately want to follow the arc of the story. But this is Skyrim, right? Like this is
Yeah.
eventually you're going
Do
to
all
have
the
to.
side quests.
Right. You want to do all the
Yeah.
side quests, right? So having a table of side quests is really helpful too. But I would say that most of the DMs who are listening, who are parents who are playing with children, who have kids at the table, you're probably not doing sandbox style play. Because that's really hard to do. It's really rewarding to do also, but it's hard to set up. So for the ones who are trying to go through a specific story, who are maybe even doing it out of a campaign book, like some of the things that we have online to sell. The tools that I would say are most important are the ones that give you space to think. So you don't want to have to think about names. Let somebody else think about names for you. Other tables that could be helpful are like random enemy tables, random treasure tables. But again, that's more if you're wandering, if you're doing sandbox style. I do find that one that might actually be most useful for DMs that are trying to keep their players on like the straight and narrow, as it were, of the story are tables of NPCs. So not just names, but like specific people who they can encounter in any sort of place. So you don't want like the mayor of X town that you're in, but you could have like council person, right? Or baker or head guard, or these people that they can meet on the street that while you're DMing on the fly, they're starting to get a little squirrely, they're starting to go outside the bounds on the story. You can roll on this table and be like, oh, the baker comes up to you and says, hey, have you taken care of the monster in the forest that is the reason that you got hired, right? That'll help you find a new voice to help keep the players inside the boundary to the story that you are telling.
And I have to give a shout out here that can help you have those like random tables to fall back on. Immediately, I just thought of Roll and Play Press, which is one of our
Oh, sure.
sponsors for this season. They have the Game Master's Fantasy Toolkit and the Fantasy Character Kit. They also have like a sci-fi version. They're always coming out with new tools that can help support you as a DM. So if you're interested in that, you can use our link, bit.ly/. TKT Roleplay. That's TKTROLLPLAY. That'll give you a 10% discount if you use that link, and it'll also help us out a little bit as well. So check out what they have. I would also offer, with my style that is less sandboxy, I guess, than yours, the way that I think about it is having like rainy day plans. Like, what if they
Yeah.
fail this DC check,
Yes.
right? Or
Yes.
what if they are fighting this monster and I have screwed up and this monster is way too powerful, or they're just rolling really terribly that day and they're down and a kid is really upset. Like, I have to have in the back of my mind like the what if plan. I don't think through every possible thing that could
No,
happen,
you
but the
can't.
common things that could happen that would make things go not according to my plan, and just kind of have in my mind like, here's another way to either get them back on the path that I had planned, or just an alternative experience for
Yeah.
that part of the story.
I think that's a really good idea. And the last thing that I would say to that, Allison, is one of the things that we're big advocates for is when a kid asks a question and you don't know the answer to that question, saying "I don't know" to a kid is one of the most powerful things that you can say. Adults make up answers to kids all the time, and it teaches kids either that they should have an answer to every question, which is ludicrous, or that adults lie. So when a kid asks a question and you don't know the answer to the question, say, I don't know. That gives kids the freedom to not know the answer to questions too. And say, but let's find out together, right? So that invites the kid into this journey of exploration. This is teaching modality. Where that comes into play here when you're DMing on the fly, if you get to a spot where the kids have painted you into a corner, they're either your plan has completely fallen apart because they've come up with some brilliant things, or your roles have gone terribly, or their roles have gone terribly, or everything's just sort of like fallen apart and it's still fun, but like you just don't know what to do. If you stop the game and say, you guys defeated me. I don't actually know what to do right now. I need to take a couple of minutes to figure out what happens next, given what you've just done. If you can say that in a way that is not accusatory, but celebratory, you will make those kids' day. Because like never am I going to be an advocate for the style of D&D where it's the players versus the DM. Like that's just not a fun way to tell a story. But if you as the DM can be vulnerable and say, like, guys, my plan has fallen apart because you've come up with some brilliant things, and I like physically can't wrap my head around this right now. I have to go away and come back and figure out how to deal with what you've presented me. What an awesome win for them that they have lived in your story well enough that they have presented you with something that you don't yet know. How awesome would that be?
Okay, so let's wrap up the topical part of this podcast with a question from one of our Patreon friends, Ben Carter. He says, how much is too much? Should we still be trying to adjust their course back to the main quest, or is it more important to respect their agency? Last time my players veered off, I had them find the irrelevant NPC they were pursuing, but only after he had met with a convenient, near-fatal wild creature encounter. They only had a few rounds to question him before he passed away. Did my players spot the scenery being moved? And if not, is that a win for everyone?
First off, Ben, you're awesome. Hi. And
We
second,
love you, Ben.
we really do. And the phrase "spot the scenery being moved," I'm gonna steal that because that's amazing. No, they probably didn't spot it. You should ask them that. I bet that they didn't though. And this is a really good example of DMing on the fly. Like giving consequences to stepping outside the boundaries of the story is a really good idea, with the caveat that you need to know who's around your table. Some kids will not be able to deal with the fact that they messed around and then the NPC that they were looking for died. That's going to be real hard for them. So I'm assuming you, Ben, know your players, and so well done. Like that is an amazing consequence. For the rest of the listeners, just make sure that you know the players around your table and what they'll be able to handle. I'm reminded too of, I think it was Steph from TTRPG Kids who told this story to us. They were DMing it's just a short game for their son, and he really wanted to like jump into lava or jump into a volcano or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And like just wouldn't let it go. And their son was real little, and it was just their son. And so Steph finally said, "Okay, you jump into the lava." And the son goes, "Oh, okay, what happens next?" And Steph's like, the game's over. We have to start over." So like it's
After they explained the consequences very
correct.
clearly. And if
Correct.
you want that whole story, listen to our Area of Effect episode, the educational side of TTRPGs, back from last season.
Oh my gosh, you even remember the name of the
I know the title, I don't know the number.
No, that's incredible. Good job. The point of that being like giving kids consequences for straying outside the boundaries of the story is actually a really good way for you to for you to DM on the fly, because it helps the kids to know that there are consequences to what they're doing. Naming those consequences is really important, even if you don't give exactly what's going to happen. Like, I think it would make sense for Ben in his example to not say, if you delay, the person will die. Like, that's not necessarily what you need to do, but you could say something like, if you keep over here petting the horse, then the guy that you're looking for, something might happen to him, right? Scaffolding it in that way helps them. And even if they see a little bit of the scenery being moved, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because they're learning how to tell a story, right? They're learning from you as a DM how to tell a story. So if you are showing your hand sometimes on how to tell a story, that's not a bad thing. That's a win for everybody.
Well, before we wrap up, Ryan, I have a few announcements I would love to share with our audience. First one is about our newsletter. Ryan, do you like being in the know?
Rarely, if ever.
Yeah, we don't like knowing anything.
Nope.
But if you're a person who likes to be in the know, you can sign up for our newsletter by visiting thekidstablednd.com and scrolling all the way to the bottom of the page where you'll see a little box to input your email address. You will then get regular updates about what Ryan and I are up to, working behind the scenes on the Kids Table. Like, for instance, did you know that I was on an episode of Bitten Apple TV just a couple weeks ago, Ryan?
I heard. I was very awesome. I was sad that I missed it.
I am loving making all these new connections with different creators in the TTRPG space. It's super fun. I love it. If you have a podcast, invite me on your show. I'd love to come and chat with you. But anyway, if you join our newsletter, you'll never again miss the drop on a new video or product that we have to share. Secondly, I want to talk about our Patreon. You too can join the conversation around playing D&D with kids by becoming one of our patrons. I realized on this podcast, I haven't exactly shared what all you can get from our different tiers. So I'm going to share it now. For just $3 a month, you can be one of Serena's Mighty Mages and help keep the Kids Table running and also gain exclusive access to our Patreon feed for interactive elements and behind the scenes content. You just wrote an article that's one of the behind the scenes content.
Super fun.
As well as first access to new products and even early access to our new episodes. At $5 a month, Six Tails Rogue Bros, my favorite title, by the way, receive all of the above, plus a free monthly digital resource or sneak peek. For $10 a month, Sophia's Sous Chefs additionally access an exclusive quarterly deep dive with the show creators, where you can get personalized advice on playing TTRPGs with kids. I'm really looking forward to that. And at $25 a month, V's Rage Squad also receives a personal shout out in each episode and a physical gift. I also wanted to mention our website. If you haven't been to our website, thekidstablednd.com, I did a little light refresh this past week, and it should be working better on mobile phones. I also added our Area of Effect episodes and our DM tip video playlist, which you can find at bit.ly/DM for kids. I also embedded that on the Learn page on our website and updated our services and shop pages as well, so you can more easily find what you're looking for. I noticed that people are mostly just going to the homepage and the shop, but let me tell you, there is a database of, I think, super cool resources about kids D&D on there. So click around our website, see what you think, and give us a hand and check out those pages. Well, that's all I have this week, Ryan. It has been great to talk to you about DMing on the fly.
Thank you so much, Allison. Stay cool out there in that state where you live that is far away from California, where it is lovely.
I know. As soon as they build a Stargate, I will be the first one through it so we can play our regular weekly games again.
I love it. Have some more good summer days with your girls. Try not to let them get you off your plan too much.
But you know what? If they do, I'll just roll with the punches.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening to Area of Effect. Check out our original actual play D&D show with kids at the table on YouTube, social media, or your favorite podcast app. Be a part of the ongoing conversation by emailing your questions to questions@thekidstablednd.com. Find resources to bring adventure to your own table at thekidstablednd.com/shop. And you can join our quest to bring more kids to the D&D table at patreon.com/thekidstablednd. Because when kids are at the table, everyone wins.